So to start off this deep dive, I want you to just imagine stepping out of the warm Parisian sunlight and descending right into the Louvre.
Oh, wow. Okay, setting a scene.
So you walk through those massive glass pyramids and you navigate those endless echoing marble hallways. The air is cool, the ceilings are vaulted, and you're entirely bracing yourself for sensory overload.
Right, because it's a museum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You expect to see thousands of masterpieces covering just every single inch of the walls, centuries of art demanding your attention all at once.
Yeah, that is the standard museum experience. You walk in preparing for this marathon of visual information, which, usually results in a kind of aesthetic exhaustion after the first hour or
Right.
so.
You are ready to be bombarded. But hold that thought for a second. Imagine you walk into the main gallery, the grandest room in the entire building, and the walls are completely bare.
Wait, completely bare.
Literally bare. There's only one solitary frame hanging dead in the center of the room. Nothing else at all.
Man, that would immediately change the entire physical atmosphere of the room. The silence would be deafening.
Right. And then you find out the rest of the paintings didn't get stolen or anything. They weren't lost in some tragic fire. The artist intentionally marched in, took them down, and permanently destroyed them.
That is wild.
They just looked at their own life's work and decided that, 99% of it no longer represented the absolute pinnacle of their vision. They curated their entire legacy down to one single isolated artifact.
I actually love this analogy because it gets right to the core of human attention.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because when you strip away the noise, like the sheer volume of content we are conditioned to expect these days, it forces a radically different kind of observation from you.
Oh, for sure.
That single remaining painting suddenly possesses this immense gravitational pull. You aren't just looking at the brushstrokes anymore. You are interrogating the actual survival of the piece.
Yes.
You're standing there asking, what makes this specific canvas so essential that it was spared the fire?
And that dynamic, that incredible power of the wiped slate, that is the exact framework for our deep dive today. We are tracing the musical and psychological evolution of a fiercely independent, highly elusive hip-hop artist named Kwon Avyn. Some of his earliest hometown listeners might still know him as Day-Day, but for anyone trying to look him up right now, you are going to encounter that exact bare museum we just talked about. He has actively wiped his public discography almost entirely clean.
Which is such a fascinating move, especially when you consider the current landscape of the music industry.
Definitely.
So our mission today is to really dissect the psychology behind that level of extreme curation. We are going to map out Kwon's journey from, a reactive local sensation to a deeply introspective, stoic lyricist.
It's quite the job.
It really is. We'll look at the technical evolution of his pen, the specific instrumentals that shaped his storytelling, and the unreleased material that proves exactly why his silence is so deliberate.
Let's unpack the premise of that silence first, though, because I have to push back a little on this idea that deleting your catalog is purely like a flex of artistic integrity.
Okay, fair enough.
We live in an algorithm-driven world, right?
Yeah.
The golden rule is flood the feed, you post every day, you drop a single every week, or the audience just forgets you exist. Isn't erasing your own history borderline career suicide? At the very least, maybe a symptom of extreme overthinking.
Well, I wouldn't call it career suicide, but you are hitting on a vital tension there. The algorithm rewards volume. Spotify alone sees roughly, 100,000 new tracks uploaded every single day.
That's shit crazy like that, yeah.
Right. So in that environment, silence feels like a death sentence to most young artists. But that's precisely why Kwon's approach is so disruptive. By refusing to play that volume game, he is essentially weaponizing scarcity.
Weaponizing scarcity. I like that.
Yeah, he's explicitly telling you that his art is not disposable background noise. However, I will totally concede your point about the overthinking, because that meticulous, almost obsessive curation, it wasn't always there.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Because every pristine, curated museum usually starts out as very messy, chaotic. And for Kwon, that messy studio was a basement in the small town of Boscobel. This is where we find his origin story, and honestly, it's a deeply reluctant one.
Reluctant is the perfect framing for this. When we look at the genesis of most artists, there's this hunger for the spotlight.
Yeah, they want to be seen.
Exactly. But Kwon's entry into the public arena was driven entirely by external pressure and necessity. It was a reaction, not an initiation.
Right, so the track that started it all was called Polar Opposites. And the catalyst for this is straight out of a high school movie, but with very real stakes. So there's this rival kid from another school, right? A white rapper, who decided it was a good idea to start throwing around racial slurs.
Terrible idea.
Obviously. And this kid was disrespecting a girl that Kwon was talking to at the time. To top it all off, he publicly announced he was going to drop a diss track aimed directly at Kwon and his crew.
So it's the classic inciting incident. You have a threat that invades your perimeter. Now, psychologically, Kwon had zero grand ambitions to enter a rap beef, but in the ecosystem of a small town, your reputation is currency. When your friends are looking at you to respond, and the disrespect is just that blatant, your hand is forced.
You have to do something.
The silence we praised earlier would have been interpreted as cowardice in this specific context. He had to step into the arena to basically dismantle this rival.
And man, the turnaround time was lethal. He wrote and recorded Polar Opposites in just 2 days.
2 days is fast.
Super fast. And in the context of independent small-town hip-hop, this thing spread like a virus. It hit nearly 2,000 views almost overnight.
Wow.
Yeah, and it eventually settled around 5,000. In a place like Boscobel, that means literally everyone with a smartphone was tuning in.
It was the main event.
It actually unified the town.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, even the kids from the rival's own school had to admit Kwon completely won the exchange.
Because the mechanics of a local diss track require a very specific toolkit, and Kwon just instinctively understood it.
Right.
You don't use a diss track to show off complex, abstract poetry. That's not the time. You use it to land direct, humiliating punches. You want the lyrics to act as inside jokes that the entire town can suddenly participate in.
Oh, he understood the assignment perfectly.
Yeah.
Right out the gate, dismantling this kid's whole aesthetic. It's not overly metaphorical. It's a direct laser sight on the kid's fake jewelry and a warning about the lyrical barrage that's coming.
That immediate, overwhelming victory creates a massive spike in dopamine for a young creator.
Oh, I bet.
Suddenly, your phone is lighting up, your peers are validating you, and you've tasted that intoxicating rush of public consensus.
But you know, that dopamine rush is a very dangerous drug. I think we're about to see the classic sophomore stumble.
Well, I mean, it's almost inevitable, right?
Exactly 3 months after Polar Opposites sets the town on fire, the pressure to maintain that high really kicks in. So Kwon drops a follow-up track called Hieroglyphics, the demo version. And this is where the momentum just hits a brick wall.
So let's dissect why that wall exists. After an initial organic hit, the artist tries to reverse engineer the success.
Right, they try to capture lightning in a bottle twice.
Exactly. But instead of tapping into the genuine emotion that fueled the first song, which in Kwon's case was genuine defense of his people, the artist starts guessing what the crowd wants.
They start chasing the algorithm of their own local hype.
Yes. And the result is almost always forced.
And he admitted it himself. He called it a brief lapse in judgment. He was literally just trying to keep the wave going. Off the residual hype alone, the track pulled in a few hundred views, but the content itself was incredibly forced. He looks back on it now and laughs at the sheer cringe of it. He literally had a line about a girl twerking on the wall like it's hieroglyphic.
That line is the perfect artifact of a young artist trying on a persona that just doesn't fit at all.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's a hollow club trope. He was substituting genuine observation for generic hip-hop cliches. But, you know, the failure of hieroglyphics is actually the most important thing that could have happened to him.
How is dropping a terrible, cringe-worthy song the best thing for a developing artist? Wouldn't it risk alienating the few fans he had just won over?
Because it served as an immediate diagnostic test for his own artistic integrity.
Okay, I'm listening.
Think about most artists in the streaming era. They will defend their mediocre work to the death. They'll blame the algorithm or say the audience didn't get it. Or worse, they'll just keep leaning into the cringe, hoping it ironically goes viral on TikTok.
Oh yeah, we see that all the time.
But Kwon didn't do that. His internal compass recognized the drop in quality.
So he killed it. He took the song down entirely. Some of his early fans were actually upset about it. They wanted that fast food content. They wanted the easy background noise. But Kwon just shut the door.
Taking that track down wasn't just him hiding a mistake, though. It was the initiation of an intense incubation period. He essentially realized, if I want to be an artist and not just the kid who won a local rap beef, I have to fundamentally rebuild my foundation.
And rebuild is an understatement. He went completely dark. We're talking about a 2.5-year hiatus. Just think about how wild that is for a second.
It's basically an eternity in internet time.
For a teenager who just tasted local notoriety, to enforce a vow of silence for that long is staggering. Most people can't stay off social media for 2 days.
Let alone 2 years.
It takes a monumental amount of discipline to step away into the dark, to actually build your foundation, rather than milking that immediate validation.
Entire subgenres of rap were born and died on TikTok in that time frame. The psychological pressure to post something, anything, just to maintain relevance, it requires an abnormal level of restraint to sit with your own thoughts for that long while everyone else is just rushing to the microphone.
He kept the hype on life support, but just barely. He'd occasionally post a blurry photo of a vocal booth, or maybe a tiny cryptic snippet, just enough to signal, I'm still breathing, I'm still working.
Right, just a pulse.
But otherwise, radio silence. The tension must have been crazy. But then, in 2021, exactly on his 19th birthday, he finally breaks the silence. He drops a track called Mine.
And this is the exact moment the reactive kid from Bosco Bell transforms into the architect of his own sound. The very first choice he makes signals the shift. It's the instrumental. He chooses to rap over the beat for Gold Roses, which was originally by Drake and Rick Ross.
Oh man, for those who don't know that beat, it is not a club banger. It's not a drill beat.
Not at all.
It has this incredibly luxurious, atmospheric, almost melancholic tone to it. It sounds like late-night reflection in a completely empty room.
A beat like Gold Roses practically demands a narrative. It lacks the aggressive, driving kicks and snares that let a rapper hide behind pure energy.
Right, you can't fake it on that beat.
Exactly. When you step onto a beat that's sparse and emotional, you are forced to be lyrical. You have to confess something.
And he subverts every single expectation the hometown crowd had for him. They probably wanted Polar Opposites Part 2.
Oh, guaranteed.
They wanted another beef, another high-energy takedown.
Yeah.
Instead, Kwon uses Mine to directly address the elephant in the room, which is his own absence.
Yeah.
He tackles the anxiety of the sophomore slump and the terrifying risk of taking a 2.5-year gap.
He's actively rejecting what he terms the pop agenda. He's drawing a line in the sand, stating that he refuses to be an artist on a conveyor belt.
It's so mature.
To hear a freshly turned 19-year-old separating his concepts so cleanly while maintaining complex rhyme schemes is just a massive leap forward.
The introspection is so sharp on this. He raps, "I feel a little worried that I've been too dilatory. If I wait too long to drop these songs and tell these stories, I'm fearing that they'll all move on and will ignore me."
Okay, let's just pause on that word. Dilatory.
Right. Who uses that?
It means slow to act, or intended to cause delay. You do not hear a word like that in a standard hype track. He's weaponizing an advanced vocabulary to articulate his deepest, most vulnerable insecurity, which is the fear of being entirely forgotten by the very audience he is trying to protect his art for.
Vulnerability is profound, yes. But hip-hop is fundamentally a competitive blood sport. Rap is like a muscle. If you don't spar for 2.5 years, your timing gets rigid, you lose the pocket of the beat. If you vanish and come back only showing your soft emotional side, the culture might just write you off.
They'll assume your flow has atrophied. And that is a very real risk, and Kwon was fully aware of it. He had to remind everyone that his long hiatus wasn't spent just writing diary entries. It was spent in the booth, grinding out the actual mechanical skills.
Which brings a completely different beast into the timeline. So that same year, 2021, he records a pure technical showcase called That Time. And the beat selection here is just arrogant in the absolute best way possible. He chooses Otis by Kanye West and Jay-Z.
Stepping onto the Otis instrumental is akin to walking into a heavyweight title fight. The architecture of that beat is notoriously difficult to master.
Because of the sample.
Yes, Kanye chopped up a classic Otis Redding soul sample, but he didn't lay it out on a standard, predictable 4/4 grid. The vocal chops stagger, the drums are heavy but sporadic.
It's all over the place.
It forces the rapper to act as the primary rhythmic instrument. That leaves absolutely no room for error.
There's no safety net.
None. There is no traditional drum pattern to catch you if you fall off beat. It will completely swallow a rapper who doesn't have elite breath control and immaculate timing.
Kwon doesn't just ride the beat, he aggressively wrestles it to the ground.
Yeah.
That Time is a sheer display of mechanics.
Absolutely.
The way he stacks internal vowel sounds is just relentless.
Let's clarify how that breath control actually functions, because it's fascinating.
Yeah, break that down.
To rap over an erratic beat like Otis without sounding out of breath requires you to meticulously map out your syllables. You have to write tiny micropauses into the rhyme scheme itself so you can snatch oxygen without breaking the illusion of a continuous flow.
So it's very calculated.
It's a mathematical exercise as much as a linguistic one.
And he goes full apex predator mode to prove he can do it. He spits, Kwon's an Indominus Rex, rip the head off any rapper that
It's
step.
such a great
And then
video.
he shifts into this brilliant sci-fi imagery. He says, error in my double helix, switch me to a mutant.
It's an undeniable exhibition of raw skill. He is proving that he possesses a vast, jagged lexicon. However, even Kwon's own retrospective critique of that time is pretty telling.
Oh, what does he say about it?
He acknowledges that while it's mechanically impressive, it leans almost entirely on technicality at the expense of genuine substance.
Okay, I see what you mean. It's a flex. He had to prove he could out-rap the room before he went back to proving he had something important to say to the room.
Precisely. That time was the muscle memory. The real magic happens when he figures out how to merge that elite technical wordplay with deep biographical storytelling.
And that synthesis happens on a track called The Mathematician.
Yes, it does.
I love this track so much. The Mathematician was officially released in 2023, but the writing process spanned that crucial 2019 to 2021 hiatus window. And again, the beat selection just sets the entire mood. He raps over the instrumental for The Enemy by Big L and Fat Joe.
We really need to talk about the texture of that beat. The Enemy is quintessential 1990s New York boom bap.
It's so gritty.
It relies on a heavy, dusty kick drum and a really sharp snare. It doesn't have the atmospheric luxury of Gold Roses or the chaotic energy of Otis.
Right.
Boom bap is the canvas of the storyteller. It's designed to fade into the background just enough so that the lyrics become the absolute center of gravity.
And Kwon uses that canvas to build a profoundly personal mythology. You know, he was always an advanced math guy in high school, but he takes that mundane fact and intertwines it with a specific physical trauma.
This is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, so during his sophomore year playing football, he suffered a brutal broken leg. He was shipped out of Boscobel to a medical facility in La Crosse, or LX's clinic. And there, surgeons put 2 metal rods directly into his tibia.
The transformation of that physical trauma is what really elevates the pen here. He doesn't just say, I broke my leg. He uses the metal rods in the clinical setting to anchor this cold, calculating, precise alter ego. The physical pain hardens him into the mathematician.
Calculating risk in an industry that destroys careless people.
But the song doesn't stop at clever battle rap punchlines.
No, it goes deeper.
The second verse of The Mathematician takes a dramatic narrative turn.
Right, he shifts the lens away from himself entirely. He launches into a cautionary tale about an associate, someone he watched, completely self-destruct. It's a tragic arc about a guy whose variables, to use the math theme, just collapsed due to greed. He lost his queen, he lost his friends, he lost everything chasing the wrong equations.
That shift from the first person to the third person marks a massive leap in maturity. He's observing cause and effect in real time. He's no longer just processing his own teenage anxieties. He's acting as a reporter on the human condition. He is watching someone else's life fall apart and taking diligent notes on the consequences of unchecked ambition.
Speaking of taking notes, this is the perfect time to bring up something incredible we found while preparing for this deep dive.
Oh, the unreleased draft.
Yes. We got to look at an unreleased draft that actually builds on this exact mathematician persona. Gives us a window into how his wordplay was evolving to become even more layered. He says, if you the mathematician, then you got to know division sun-given light, like I'm standing in the center of the solar system. The way he bends division into division to keep the math motif going. It's just so effortless.
The wordplay is razor sharp, but I really want to dig into the philosophical foundation of that specific unreleased draft, because beyond the punchlines, Kwon explicitly mentions the concept of stoicism.
Yeah.
He talks about studying the philosophy, implementing its lessons, and learning how to control the system around him rather than reacting to it.
Let's expand on that. Why is it such a big deal for a rapper in his late teens or early 20s to be incorporating stoicism into his bars?
Because it represents a complete inversion of the traditional hip-hop archetype.
Oh, so.
Well, the genre often romanticizes highly reactive, emotionally volatile behavior, right? Reacting to disrespect with immediate aggression, flexing wealth to mask insecurity, stuff like that. By explicitly embracing stoicism, Kwon is stating that true power isn't about how loud you yell when provoked. It's about mastering your internal environment so thoroughly that external chaos cannot move you. Remember the kid who wrote Polar Opposites? He was reacting to a rival. The man writing the stoic drafts is trying to ensure he never has to react to anyone but himself ever again.
That philosophical evolution, putting the ego on a shelf and demanding internal discipline, is the perfect bridge to what Kwon himself considers his absolute peak as a writer.
This is the big one.
We're talking about a track that merges the technical breath control of that time with the brutal introspection of mine, but it takes it to a level of structural genius.
This is an unreleased masterpiece titled Good Man, and I have to say, it is a masterclass in narrative misdirection.
I need to set the scene for this because this song is currently locked away in the vault. He recorded it over the instrumental for DJ Khaled's Good Man. It is a massive, soulful, demanding beat that essentially forces you to answer the sample's core question, which is, are you a good man? And the real-life context is crucial here. Kwon wrote this during a very specific window when he was starting to come into real money for the first time.
Sudden financial elevation is the ultimate psychological magnifying glass.
Oh, absolutely.
It doesn't change who you are, it just amplifies the virtues and the flaws that are already present. Good Man is an exploration of that exact friction.
So when you hit play on the first verse, you are completely convinced you're listening to a classic takedown track. He sounds like he is ruthlessly indicting a friend.
Yeah, someone close to him.
Someone who has let a little bit of new wealth completely corrupt their ego. He lists off these toxic traits, the arrogance, the greed.
The listener is just nodding along, completely aligned with Kwon's judgment. He's building this bulletproof case against this flawed individual.
And the wordplay he uses to build that case is elite. He drops this line, and your damn bank account the only thing you account for. It's such a clean, devastating critique of someone who has substituted their moral compass for a ledger.
But then comes the structural pivot that changes the entire meaning of the song. It's the ultimate rug pull.
It changes everything. After a whole verse of dressing down this arrogant, toxic person, Kwon delivers this line. Before you risk you and I's health, realize that I'm talking to myself.
It takes your breath away. I mean, in a single line, the entire context of the song inverts.
Everything flips.
Every harsh critique about having a bloated ego, every word about greed and backstabbing lands squarely back on the writer himself.
It's like looking through a sniper scope. You are dialed in perfectly on a target. Your breathing is steady. And right as you pull the trigger, you realize someone placed a mirror at the exact end of the barrel.
That is exactly the mechanism at play.
You're aiming directly at your own eye.
It is an artist preemptively destroying the worst version of himself as his circumstances elevate. It is self-interrogation disguised as battle rap.
It's catching your own ego in the mirror in real time. He realizes that the money and the attention are pulling him toward becoming the exact type of person he has always despised.
To write that requires a terrifying level of self-awareness. He is answering the beat's question, am I a good man? With a painful, hesitant, He admits he is navigating both sides of the fence, wrestling with his own ego, and desperately trying to straighten out his own psychology before he loses his identity to the money.
But this is the part I am struggling to wrap my head around. If you write the most structurally sophisticated, emotionally honest thing you have ever put on a page, if you successfully execute a plot twist like that, why on earth would you keep it unreleased? Why hide your masterpiece from your audience?
Well, this raises an important question about the fundamental purpose of art. When Kwon started with that scrubbed demo track in his early days, the art was entirely transactional.
I give you words, you give me applause.
Exactly, the dopamine trap. But Good Man represents a total paradigm shift. He is no longer creating for consumption, he's creating for comprehension.
Oh, wow. Creating for comprehension.
He is using the music as a tool to figure out what kind of man he is actually becoming.
He writes in the letter, some things aren't ready for an audience until the story is finished.
And that single sentence proves he has completely conquered the dopamine loop.
Totally. A younger version of him would have immediately uploaded those lyrics.
Oh, absolutely. Just to get praise for how clever the twist was. Look at this cool thing I did.
Right.
But this mature iteration of Kwon recognizes that he is still in the middle of living the story. He is actively interrogating his own character. Uploading it for public consumption would turn a genuine moment of self-reflection into a performance.
That makes so much sense. He doesn't need the audience's applause to validate the work anymore, because the value of the work was the realization it brought him. The work validates itself.
It is the discipline of letting something beautiful exist quietly until you fully understand it yourself. The unreleased status of Good Man isn't him hiding from the world, it's him incubating his own character.
Wow.
He notes that as he gets older, he wants his work to be substantive, purposeful, He refuses to regress to rapping about, exaggerated violence just to fill a track list. He is curating his legacy with ruthless intention.
He writes, "Every song that's gone was a decision, and every song that remains is one I stand behind."
That's powerful.
And that brings us full circle to the bare walls of the Louvre. His discography today is intentionally, almost aggressively sparse. Mine stands alone as the foundational pillar. The noise of the past is just burned away.
Synthesizing this journey shows a remarkable trajectory. We started with a teenage kid in Boscobel reacting to local disrespect, relying on the expected aggressive tropes of the genre.
Yeah, the classic diss track stuff.
We watched him stumble, recognize his error, and endure a grueling 2.5-year silence to reset his compass. And now we're looking at a stoic, highly technical writer who refuses to trade in fake violence or manufactured drama.
Exactly.
He demands that his catalog, however small it currently is, be undeniably substantive.
And that standard sets a massive expectation for the future. I know he likes to operate in the shadows, and I know he hasn't confirmed anything officially, but the elusive nature of his movements right now is building incredible anticipation.
People are definitely watching.
There are whispers, faint rumors, that we might be looking at a return, maybe late 2026, possibly, finally, a highly anticipated full-length project.
If and when that late 2026 return happens, the audience knows exactly what they're getting. There will be zero filler.
None at all.
Because he has curated his past so ruthlessly, he has guaranteed that every snare drum, every breath, and every syllable of his future work will be meticulously intentional.
He made the wait mean something.
He really did. Which leaves us with a final lingering thought.
Let's hear it.
When an artist is willing to burn down their own galleries, when they strip away the safety net of their past content and leave you staring at a blank wall, they aren't retreating. They are demanding your absolute, undivided attention for the very first stroke of the next canvas. So the question isn't just what Kwon Avyn will say next. The question is, when the architect of this curated silence finally decides to speak again, will you be ready to listen?